Hello, BookTube. I love doing that. I have some mail. Some mail for you. Frida doesn't care, except that it's a highlight of her day because she'll get to destroy packages. I've got a bunch of mail, so let's rifle through my mail. That's always a fun time. See what we have here. See if there's anything that's going to make me go nuts. There's the bean. She has a far less discriminating palate than I do. So, I don't know how people that get mail dispose of their packages if they don't have Frida. So what is this first one? Oh my. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. All right, well, this touches on all of us. This touches on all of us. We don't pay nearly as much attention to it as we should, at least those of us who aren't tech heads. This comes out in May from W.W. Norton, my favorite non-Penguin publisher. And this is by Keith Martin, and it is Cryptography. The Key to Digital Security, How It Works, and Why It Matters. Look at that cover. It's a circuit board. Though often invisible, cryptography plays a critical role in our everyday lives. Broadly defined as a set of tools for establishing security in cyberspace, cryptography enables us to protect our information and share it securely. It underpins the security of mobile phones, card payments, web connections, internet messaging, in short, everything we do online. Cryptography offers readers a deeper understanding and greater appreciation of their own digital security. And that's putting it mildly. It's not just what we do online. I just wrote a review. What are you doing, baby? What are you doing? She's climbing over packages on the bed. She never does that. What's the matter? Why don't you just settle down? Where was I? I was in mid-bloviation. Oh, right. I just reviewed a book called The Internet in Everything by an author named Donardus. I don't know if we saw it on this channel or not. I can't remember. But it was terrific about the Internet of Things, about the so-called Internet of Things, about smart and electronic devices that are now everywhere. More wired devices than there are people on Earth, and the number growing astronomically all the time. And she makes an excellent point in that book that the distinction between things we do online and online stuff has been irretrievably blurred. This pub sheet mentions the security of mobile phones, card payments, web connections, internet messaging, but it's a lot more than that. Cryptography is a lot more than that. The way stations, the periodic inspection modules along the line of your city's water purification plant are all smart technology. They're all networked. In other words, they all need cryptography or they are hackable. The software that runs a plane, the software that runs each component part of the nearest nuclear base to you, or the nearest nuclear reactor to you, or the nearest nuclear missiles to you. All of those things. Cryptography affects everything because it's no longer a question of, well, I'm going to boot up my computer, I'm going to turn it on, and then I will be online. No, not at all. But anyway, let's see here. In clear, concise language, Keith Martin explores the many crucial ways we all rely on cryptographic technology and explores its controversial applications and the nuances behind alarming headlines about data breaches or Edward Snowden. I don't know how he must feel being linked with a thing. There's two things on offer on that sentence. Data breaches and Edward Snowden. I don't know that I'll ever be able to ask him since I don't think he watches this channel. Martin reveals how the use of cryptography can hinder criminal investigations, obstruct national security efforts, and raising wide social questions about how society should balance personal freedom with control of information. Okay. And Keith Martin, when he's at home, who is he? Is he anybody we should pay attention to? I'm sure we should, but I'm feeling cheeky. He's a professor of information security at Royal Holloway University of London and has worked in cryptographic research for 30 years. Okay. All right. I guess we have to pay attention. All right, so he knows what he's talking about. So this comes out in May. We're off to a disturbing start. When's the last time you changed any of your passwords? Any of them. For your ATM card, for your laptop. Is the password for your laptop the same as the password for your Amazon account or your tablet or your smartphone? And when's the last time you changed any of them? All right, so let's see what this next one is. Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. All right, this is, what have we got here? What is all this then? What is this ticker tape parade? I do not need a ticker tape parade. This is great, fantastic. This comes out in late January, I think. No, late February. This is The Apartment by Teddy Wayne. It does not have a definitive article. It is not The Apartment. And you know, or maybe you don't, with this author, that's going to mean something. With this author, I guarantee you, he sat and thought about whether or not he wanted a definite article on this thing. Because he's a really, really good crafter of contemporary fiction. In the strata of crafters of contemporary fiction that not enough people know about. so everybody's heard of the people who are no good, and people like him. Anyway, let's see here. And this book is a quietly unsettling portrait of one of New York's many lost souls longing for connection. In 1996, the unnamed narrator of the novel is living in an illegal sublet of a rent-stabilized apartment in Manhattan's Stuyvesant town and attending an MFA program at Columbia on his father's dime. Feeling lonely and misplaced among his classmates, he finds escape from his lifelong solitude in a surprising friendship with Billy, a talented, charismatic Midwesterner. Is there any other kind? On an academic scholarship. When he offers his spare bedroom rent-free to Billy, the close quarters and power imbalance, not to mention their radically different upbringings, breed tension neither man could predict. I still have not got to Apartment by Teddy Wayne, but I cannot recommend this author strongly enough. He is just the ultimate cure for all of the ills that I have and have occasionally voiced on this channel about the contemporary made-up stories. He is the cure for that. He and a handful of maybe a dozen other authors are the people I'm thinking about when I bash on the people who don't do it well. Fantastic. Oh, great. Okay. We're doing well for the made-up stories here. Great. This is another author I can wholeheartedly recommend, even though I can't recommend this book. I haven't read this book yet. This comes out in June, and this is by John Hart. This is The Unwilling. Boy, oh boy, what an author this is. Six-time New York Times bestselling and award-winning author John Hart has been hailed as, quote, a master storyteller by the New York Times bestselling author Harlan Coben, and praised as, quote, this generation's Pat Conroy by the Providence Journal. Those two things are not the same. His next novel, The Unwilling, returns to the South, this time to the height of the Vietnam War, combining crime, suspense, and searing glimpses into the human soul delivered with Hart's signature style. This standalone novel follows a family at war in both the past and present as they become pawns in a struggle much larger than any of them can imagine. Gibby's older brothers have already been to war. Robert died in the jungles of Vietnam, while Jason came back misunderstood and hard, a decorated killer and drug addict now freshly released from a 3-year stint in prison. Jason won't speak of the war or of his time behind bars, and he's estranged from his father, a detective, and his mother. But Jason does want a relationship with the younger brother he hasn't known for years. Determined to make that connection, he coaches Gibby into a day at the lake. Long hours of sunshine and whiskey and older women. But the day turns ugly when the four encounter a prison transfer bus on a stretch of empty road. Beautiful but drunk, Jason's girlfriend Tyra taunts the prisoners, leading to a riot on the bus. She finds it funny in the moment, but is savagely murdered soon after. The man behind this violence is a deranged, wealthy serial killer, incarcerated yet running the prison through the money and intimidation. And the plot takes off from there. And some of that is going to sound, some of that does sound, outre and macabre and far-fetched in just the way that I make fun of the made-up stories. But this guy does it really well. If you're interested in... I feel a little awkward here because I'm recommending these things without having read them, but I know them on the strength of the bank of goodwill that their authors have built up over time with me. If you want an intelligent thriller, an intelligent, action-filled, law-oriented thriller, you cannot go wrong with John Hart. This guy's amazing. And if you want really good contemporary fiction, fey, twee, avocado-munching, upper-middle-class Connecticut divorce contemporary fiction, then you can't go wrong with Teddy Wayne. So great. All right, we're off to a fine start. Let's see what this next one is. It's wafer thin. The Bean seems to have completely retired from the game. She's no longer interested in. Oh, okay. Okay, great. All right. Okay, well, we've already seen this. Although my copy didn't have a bookmark. This one has a bookmark. This is Lisa Brown's Long Story Short. Those of you, I'm again assuming that all of you dote on every one of my videos, so you know that this is repetition. But in this book, the author reduces how many is it? 100 classic books into just a couple of panels, or sometimes even only one panel, and it's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. There's here we go. Okay. I haven't actually studied all of them. This is The Jungle by Upton Sinclair. Don't eat meat. and this mine comes with a bookmark, which is Little Women. Joe, smart. Meg, sweet. Can you see that? Amy, spoiled. Beth, dead. And of course, the book came with this bookmark, but this is going in a copy of Little Women. I'm not going to waste it on this book. All right, there you go. Well, that's Little Women in 4 panels. Although that doesn't deal with Marmee, and of course, it's not meant to be taken seriously. This is a joke. Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. All right. Boy, oh boy. We're doing well. We're doing well. All right, this is a paperback original that comes out in a couple of days, in just a few days, in mid-January. And once again, I have not read the book, but I can strongly recommend it anyway on the strength of the author. If you have not come across this author and read these books, you're missing a series you're going to love. Amazing that this would happen over and over again in here. This is The Decent Inn of Death, a John Madden mystery by Rennie Arth, or Arth, however you pronounce it. And this is going to be a Penguin trade paperback original for $16 when it comes out in a week or in a few days. This is the 6th installment of the beloved John Madden series, and in it, the author brings readers back to post-World War II England, where Madden comes face-to-face with a dangerous madman, and a former Chief Inspector Angus Sinclair is brought to the brink of death. On holiday, Angus Sinclair takes a trip into Winchester and learns of a death that may not be accident. It may not be the accident it first appears to be. Church organist Greta Hartman has fallen to her death in a shallow creek. While investigations concluded to be an accident, her friend and housemate Vera remains unconvinced. One thing that I know from a lifetime of reading British murder mysteries, the organist never dies of natural causes. I'm assuming that is some sort of communal reflection on the part of people who were raised in England to hate their church services. I'm assuming it's a communal reflection of that hatred, that the organist never dies in their bed, unless they've been strangled in their bed. After discovering that the deceased woman was the widow of a prominent anti-Nazi preacher, Sinclair meets with the distraught Vera, who piques his interest in what might be murder. These are terrific books. How wonderful to get a paperback original of these things. And that's fantastic. I will gobble it up right away, as I'm sure you expected to hear me say, and I will say it, and, BookTube, it's part of the reason why I am so bad at making Friday Reads videos, because they happen on the fly when I'm opening mail. Anyway, let's press on. We have some cardboard coming up. In fact, we are now at the cardboard, and I believe buried in here there is a box. What is this next one? This one comes out in late February. What have we got here? Okay, I don't need that. What is this? This comes out in late February. This is by Mark Jarman, and it is called Dailiness: Essays on Poetry. Dailiness. It has a blurb by Margot Livesey, who's a terrific novelist, actually a very good example of the Teddy Wayne style of novelist who's just below the radar, but well worth your time. And a blurb by A.E. Stallings, who is a fantastic translator and also a very good poet, and a blurb by David Mason. So Mark Jarman considers these aspects of poetry in which have remained unchanged, from ancient epics like Gilgamesh to the Renaissance poets, from Whitman's and Dickinson's experiments with the lyric to the modern breakthroughs of T.S. Eliot and Elizabeth Bishop, to his own poems and those of his contemporaries, to argue that consciousness is a gift and poetry a gift of consciousness. Okay. Can't make a poem unconsciously. So it's sort of self-evident, but literature just in general is a gift of consciousness. But a book on poetry, I'm always up for reading something like that, on the chance that it will be, eye-opening. It'll be really good. Okay, great. Didn't see that coming. I'm making a mess as usual. All right, let's do the next one here. It's be torn apart. One of these adhesive cardboard things that has to be torn apart, and then tearing it apart isn't good enough. You then have to tear it into little pieces because all the pieces are adhesive. So it's still going to stick to stuff if you don't atomize it. So what have we got here? Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. All right. See what I mean? This is my Friday reads. This is my Friday reads. This comes out at the end of the month. This is a January release, so I'm free to jump right into it. This is a romance. It's Caitlin Cruz. It's The Last Real Cowboy, which I guess is part of the Cold River Ranch series, or maybe not. Ordinarily, it would say it on the cover if it was. Maybe not. Maybe it's not. Well, let's find out. USA Today bestselling and award-winning author Caitlin Cruz continues her acclaimed Cold River Ranch series. Okay. Doesn't say it anywhere on here. That's odd. With The Last Real Cowboy, which comes out right at the end of January. Readers who love the irresistible Everett brothers will finally get Brady's story, and newcomers will quickly fall in love with Caitlin's compelling cowboy romance. And those of you who watch My Sister from Another Mister, my spirit animal, Sarah, at Steeped in Books, if you don't, you should. I wholeheartedly endorse it as BookTube's greatest romance channel. And also she has the gift of gab, same as I do, same as, for instance, Jason Harrigan. There's a certain group of people here who just turn on the camera and natter. We are never so happy as when we're telling our own tired jokes. We're never so happy to see you as when we're making these long, rambly videos. And she could tell you, is a pattern that's well known to romance fans, is that a thing that happens with romances that are done in series, when an author makes a series, is that the narrative will bristle with secondary characters, and readers always want to learn the stories of those secondary characters. That's what it's meant here by we finally get, who is it, Brady? We finally get Brady's story. It's that Brady has probably appeared in the previous two Cold River Ranch books, and probably this author has heard from a lot of fans saying, well, okay, that was a wonderful novel that you wrote, there's a wonderful story, but what about the other brother? And it's not like, for instance, there are three Everett brothers, I'll bet there are only three, but even so. It's not just the major brothers. There'll be secondary characters that aren't Everett brothers. There'll be secondary characters who just work at the ranch or who live in town. It's another one of the reasons for the popularity of location mysteries. This is one of them. But we've seen others. Some of them have gone on to 20, 25, even 30 installments, where you're eventually going to get the story of every single person in town. And by story, I mean the romance, the love story. But that's great. Those of you who are new to the channel, there are some of you who are new to the channel. God knows what your first impressions are. I have no idea. But it was pointed out to me just recently that this channel is slowly but surely inching closer and closer to 7,000 subscribers. And there are new people. I know there are. I can tell from the comments when people say, I just found you. Those of you who are new, I do get romances in the mail. I get romances in the mail, and occasionally I get Penguin Classics in the mail. So I'm pretty happy. So let's see what this next one is. Once again, have to destroy what's in the package in order to open it. It's another one of these adhesive things, so it might be another romance, which would shut me up pretty quick. Let's see. Let's see what we have here that I had to destroy. Oh, it is. Oh, it is. It's another romance. Look what I had to do to this thing. It's ridiculous. Did I manage to save the... Okay, I tore this to shreds. But I had to. It wasn't that I do this all the time, and I don't destroy packing sheets. I did this because the sheet left me no choice. But I think there's still enough for me to bore you. This is Suzanne Enoch, who's fantastic. She's terrific. And this is Scott under the covers. Not Hot under the covers. Scott under the covers. What he's doing with his kilt on, I have no idea. But, let's see. So this is a Highlander novel. So we have contemporary cowboys, which is a huge subgenre of romance these days. Huge. The cowboy leaning against the pickup truck instead of on a horse in the 19th century. The contemporary cowboy is a huge subgenre, and they almost all the ones that I have read, I haven't read nearly as many as Sarah has, but almost all the ones that I have read operate on the premise that the main male character is the title of this book, The Last Real Cowboy. They all signal that the modern world is encroaching with Wi-Fi's and hotspots and tofu bars, but there's one real cowboy out there. And another booming subgenre of romance novels is Highlander romances, and I don't understand that. I don't actually understand either one of them. I've met real life cowboys, and I met a few that were in their late 20s, early 30s, and I've met a few in my life who were in their late teens and early to mid 20s, and I will admit, the ones who were in their late teens to early mid 20s were absolute New England lighthouses of sexiness. But only physically. And then you start talking to them, and that's I mean, and anything after that, and Highlanders the same way. I have met 3 Highlanders, actual Scottish Highlanders, and I don't get it. I don't get it. But of course, it has no connection to reality. But anyway, this is the Wild Wicked Highlanders series by Suzanne Enoch, who really knows how to tell a gripping story. So, when a resourceful English lady and a hot-blooded Highlander join forces to trick a scoundrel, will every rule be broken? The answer to that is yes, and because this is a modern historical romance, one of the rules that will be broken is that they will have premarital sex, and that they will do it very soon. The reader will not be kept impatiently waiting. Usually that doesn't happen. I'm gonna have to check and see how many Suzanne Enoch books I have and where they are. God, it's unbelievable to me. I just finished reorganizing this romance bookcase, and now I have to organize it all over again. I just finished it, and well, it's a nice, as we all say, it's a nice problem to have. Let's see here. So this series tells the story of the devilish McTaggart brothers. Miranda Harris is known for her charm, wit, and ability to solve any problem she encounters. But when her brother lands neck deep in gambling debt to a crafty villain, and Miranda is subsequently blackmailed into marrying him, she must enlist the aid from the devil himself in order to save the family honor and herself. Roguishly handsome Highlander Aidan McTaggart knows next to nothing about the ways of the Ton, but he most certainly knows his way around gaming halls and women's hearts. Still, he is not sure how he'll manage to find a bride in time to save his family inheritance. When his almost sister-in-law Miranda comes to him for assistance, he poses a partnership. Will she help him navigate London society, and then he'll teach her everything about wagering and winning back her freedom? The beautiful, clever lass, and then it's gone. I don't actually know. I'm assuming she says yes. There wouldn't be much of a romance novel to it if she didn't. Boy, that is frustrating. Okay, well, we can assume she says yes. So this comes out at the end of the month. This is just torn to shreds, but that's okay. That's okay. And then we have the box, and then we'll be done. So let's see. Let's see what we have here. What is this next one? Okay. All right, this is from Princeton University Press. We've seen this series before. This is a series that they do a lot. It's these little translations from Greek and Roman classics that are specifically, they're not complete translations, they're specifically edited and curated and aimed at a contemporary relevance. And this is How to Be a Bad Emperor, an ancient guide to truly terrible leaders by Suetonius. So this is going to be all the salubrious bits and pieces of the 12 Caesars by Suetonius. That's Caligula on the cover there. And this is going to be a Trump book. Unlikely. It doesn't seem it at first for a book, a translated Roman author to be a Trump book, but nevertheless, that's what this is going to be. Okay. All right. There's been a bad mistake on the pub sheet. Somebody got the header of the pub sheet wrong. Just the computer files, just plain wrong. That is just a mistake. A 16th century manual on how to drink. That is just a mistake. So pay no attention to that part of it. But this is edited by Josiah Osgood, and I presume he does the translating duties as well. Nearly 2,000 years ago, Suetonius wrote The Lives of the Caesars, perhaps the greatest negative leadership book of all time. In How to Be a Bad Emperor, Josiah Osgood provides crisp new translations of Suetonius' briskly paced, darkly comic biographies of Roman emperors Julius Caesar, Tiberius, Caligula, and Nero. But it won't be. He won't be translating the whole of them. He'll be translating bits and pieces of each of them. If this were a small, pocket-sized hardcover of 4 lives out of the 12 Caesars, that would be wonderful. But it won't be. And it won't have Otho, Galba, or Vitellius. When they were pretty bad rulers themselves, or they wouldn't have been dead in a matter of months. For example, we see Caesar using his aunt's funeral to brag about his descent from gods and kings, and hiding his bald head with a comb over and a laurel crown. See what I mean? It's going to be a Trump book. We see Tiberius neglecting public affairs in favor of wine, perverse sex, tortures, and executions. Those stories in Suetonius have no grounding in fact about Tiberius. The stories that Suetonius tells about all of Tiberius's misadventures on the island of Capri are myth. They are just complete myth. There's no grounding in fact at all. Aside from the fact that Tiberius did retire to Capri. Other than that, nothing else. It's all this wild speculation of people who never set foot there and knew nothing. Terrible that it dogs his name to this day. Let's see. The insomniac sadist Caligula flaunting his skill at cruel put-downs. All the things that you could talk about Caligula, but you mentioned cruel put-downs because you want to draw parallels with Donald Trump. I cannot tell you how disappointing it is to be an American in an age when the whole world is making these kinds of comparisons. When anyone in the world, from Nigeria all the way to Novgorod, if asked whether or not there are any villains in America, will name the president of America. That is so hard. That is such a hard thing. If I believed in the comeuppance of the gods, if I believed in that sort of thing, I would say that it's the price we pay for having Obama for 8 years. But instead, it's just random chance, and it's tough. It's tough. Wish I could say it was going to change soon. And let's see here. And lastly, the matricide Nero, indulging in his mania for public performance. So that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a little bits and pieces from... the chapter on Julius Caesar is Ignore Bad Omens and Your Wife. Another dig at Donald Trump. The title for the Tiberius section is Spend All Your Time at Your Resort. The one for Caligula is Make Your Horse a Consul. And that's going to be... the specific reference there is going to be the story in Suetonius that Caligula wanted to make his horse, Incitatus, a senator. That is not true. It is total myth. Suetonius made it up. But nevertheless, it's going to be a jab at the fact that Donald Trump has famously said on the campaign trail in 2015 and 2016 that he would hire the, quote, very best people. And half of them are in jail now, and the others are manifestly incompetent. Oh my God, the film footage that comes out anytime, for instance, his housing and urban development director, Ben Carson, goes in front of any kind of senatorial committee is just harrowingly cringeworthy. The guy is not just incompetent to run his department; he's incompetent to walk across the street. and The same thing is true for the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, is a climate change denier in the pocket of big oil and big gas, who was so corrupt that he was run out of office. Even in the Trump administration, he was so corrupt. And let's not even get started on the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. Oh my God. So that's going to be that. That's the parallel there, is that Caligula wanted to make his horse a senator, and by extension. And then the last, fiddle. Okay, and then the Nero one is Fiddle While Rome Burns. Oh wow. Oh, look at that. Okay, interesting. I don't remember this being true. This is dual language. The Latin is given for the segments that this guy translates. Okay, well, it's going to be a bit of a trifle. Just a bit. It's going to be a bit of a trifle. I would rather what I wouldn't give. Oh my God, you'd have gotten a patented Steve squeal if this had been a small hardcover new translation of Suetonius, of the whole of Suetonius. What I wouldn't give if that had been the case. But this will be fun. This will be fun to look through anyway. And that is it. That is the mail, and not a moment too soon. This is all, once again, a hideously long mail haul. So we have Cryptography, new book on a subject that affects us all. We have The Unwilling by John Hart. We have Apartment by Teddy Wayne. We have Long Story Short with a bookmark for Little Women. For Little Women. Then we have the Decent Inn of Death by Rennie Erth. I can't recommend these authors highly enough. John Hart, Teddy Wayne, Rennie Erth. I can't recommend them highly enough. Then we have a book on poetry, Dailiness. Then How to Be a Bad Emperor. It's a Trump book, yes, but it is inventive anyway, so it'd be interesting to see. And it will also be interesting to see the author's translations. I won't even need to wing it by memory with the other English language translations of Suetonius that I happen to know, because I've got the Latin right there, so I can see what kind of a job he does. And then 2 romance novels, highlight of the thing for me, and the ones that I will dig right into. This and the Rennie Erth I will dig right into, and the Suetonius. So this is kind of a Friday Reads. This is The Last True Cowboy, or Last Real Cowboy, and Scott Under the Covers. And there you go. That is some Friday mail for you. So I'm going to wrap this up before this gets much longer. Good Lord. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.